So we're good to go, Henry.
Okay. This is an extraordinary meeting of the Oregon City Transportation Advisory Committee on June 29th, 2021, with the main purpose to have a presentation on 205 widening and seismic improvements. So Kim, if you would be so kind as to call the roll.
Yep. Bob,
Here.
Savannah,
Present.
Tim West,
Here.
Tim Morgan,
Here.
Ray,
Present.
and I know Ben Simmons is not going to be here, and I never heard anything back from Chetamere. So I think we're good to go for right now.
And I'm here too.
Oh, sorry, Henry. Yeah. We already knew you were here. No.
So, next on the agenda, which is any adjustments or any changes? Not hearing any. I think it's up to you, Josh.
Okay. Hey, Kim, can you give me sharing ability?
Yes, I will.
And just a quick intro. Yeah, I know you know Josh, but he's also kind of taken the lead for us on, well, all the, we're dealing with the ODOT 205 project like any kind of development project, and Josh oversees development in Oregon City. And so he's kind of taken the lead on that, but we've asked him to do some other things too with regard to that. And so he's pretty active with that project. And then, as we were talking through that, he suggested that this had enough impact on Oregon City that we should at least provide a short update. And so I don't anticipate this, I don't know, Josh, this probably won't take too long. We don't want to keep you too late tonight. We just really kind of wanted to share some of the things that he's been looking at a pretty high level. Obviously, there's a lot of details about the project, but with that, I'll just want to thank Josh for taking the time and suggesting the time with TAC.
Okay. So thank you, John. Yes, there's 6 slides and a thank you slide at the end. So I guess 7 total. But really the purpose of tonight, I am unmuted, right? Yes. The purpose of tonight is really to make sure we get a perspective, if there is any, from the citizenry, which you guys and gals represent. And because a lot of our reviews that we've been receiving have been from the construction side, the operations side, parks, public safety, various departments, to try and make sure that we're covering all of our bases with respect to how this project will impact Oregon City, and if there's anything that we need ODOT to do, if they're willing in some cases, so that we have the least impact possible, although we know construction ultimately, it impacts you, but for the ultimate good in the end, but most people view it as kind of a nightmare while it's happening. And we are going to have some situations where it's not going to be terribly fun, but that's the cost of construction, not monetarily, I guess. So the project, I-205 widening and seismic upgrade, the biggest intent of the project, in my opinion, is the widening portion. They're trying to take care of capacity issues. And while they're at it, they're taking care of seismic issues. And you can see here in this map, this goes all the way from Stafford Road to Highway 213. And along there's 4 seismic upgrades to 4 different bridges. And then the rest of it is all widening. And in the picture, you see a circle called Phase 1 near Gladstone, which is in the orange or yellow color. And then to the left, up in the Westland country area of Lake Oswego, that kind of area, Phase 2 is in the blue. Phase 2 is not currently funded. Phase 1 is funded, is my understanding, with the intent to break that up into 4 phases, which you'll see here in a second. And phase 1 would be approximately from spring of next year for the following 4 years and more. And I do have a slide on that as well. So I said that phase 1 was being broken up into 4 phases. I believe they're plan on doing that with 4 different contractors. And the one that's going to impact us the most is phase 1A. And so phase 1A, what you're seeing there is just outside of Main Street, but not including the Main Street Bridge, all the way to the Arch Bridge, which is 10th Street for us, over in West Lynn. And in that phase, over on the West Lynn side, going to see a roundabout installed and a completely new interchange. That work can generally be done any time of the year. The biggest focus of 1A is expanding the Abernathy Bridge, which is the bridge that goes across the Willamette River there. And you're only allowed to work within a water area in what's called the in-water work period. And that's a very short period of time during the summer months. And so it's going to take 4 years to build that bridge because of the limited time they're allowed to work in the water. And so that would potentially start next spring or summer and then go for 4 consecutive years. What that will do is impact John Storm Park, Clackamas Drive, the Sportscraft Landing area, the few houseboats that are there. And there's probably going to be some noise issues as well as some detour issues along Main Street, the Cove Apartments, and there is actually some impact to downtown, which I believe I have a slide for. This is the phasing. So phase 1A, that area from just before Main Street through 10th Street is 2022 through 25, a 4-year period. Phase 1B, let's go back for a second. That includes the Main Street Bridge to 213. That's a 2-year project that would go approximately from 2023 through 2024. Phase 1C, which would happen at the end of 1A, takes care of the West Lynn side, which would not impact us at all from what I understand. From 10th Street further into the West Lynn area. And then 1D starts at 2026 and goes into 2027. And that goes further into the West Lynn, into the that might be unincorporated by the time you get to the west side there. And then again, phase 2, which gets you all the way to Stafford, wouldn't happen until funding is found, is what we're being told at this time. But the main impact that we're going to see is 1A and 1B, and that's going to happen between spring, summer of 22, all the way through, let's say, the end of 25. So what are the impacts? And I can go back to the picture to attempt to try and show that. I did not choose to provide the traffic control plan. The traffic control plan is 144 pages. So they've definitely thought things out, but it has a lot of technical details, a lot of details that even took us a lot of time to go through. So what I'm really trying to provide is an overview of the impacts. And I can answer questions if you have any once I give those overviews. For Clackamas Drive, there's going to be times that there's going to be one travel lane where the boats, the park visitors, the floating homes, they're going to have one of those temporary signals where no one is manning it with flagging, that someone will come up to the signal. Once it turns green, they go through and everyone else waits. And then once people are through, it'll shift and then it'll be a one-way the other way. What'll also occur in that area is there's a multi-use path that goes through Clackamas Drive in that area. They're going to shift it to get it out of some of the construction area because of where they need to put their piers for the bridge. The closure of I-205, the south on-ramp at Highway 213 is going to occur to be able to do the widening that they need to do on the Abernathy Bridge. And what that will do is they'll use the Arch Bridge and Washington Street to get people back to the interstate. So there's going to be from 213, the exit at 213, to the exit at 99E is going to be closed in one direction, which is going to funnel people on Washington, onto 43, to loop back to 10th Street, come across the Arch Bridge, come downtown. When they can use 99E, use 99E. When they can't, direct them all the way over to Washington and get them out to 213. Depending on the scenarios and when that all occurs, those will happen at various times. The longest period of time that will occur is 3 weeks is what they're projecting at this time. And that would happen at night. So those closures and detours would not happen during the daytime hours, but they would happen at night. And night usually does start in some of that dinner time area. And so some of our Main Street areas might be impacted, or those people that are living near there or using the facilities may have impacts in the early evening times. And then of course, sometimes things happen during construction, like happened on Beaver Creek Road a month or two ago, where something happened at night that closes the road and there's nothing we can do about it because of safety issues. We actually had a gas problem over on Beaver Creek Road. Can't open it until it gets fixed. Of course, that thing could happen on 205 as well. It's unlikely, but you never know. But that's never, the intent is not there. The intent is to close it for 3 weeks during the nighttime. Other impacts, and I kind of threw this all together. 12th through 15th Street, getting from Main Street to Washington, and either out to 99E or out to Washington Street, again, is going to be used at night to when 205 is closed between 213 and 99E. Just kind of a repeat, but I wanted to add in the 12th and 15th there to try and help you understand where the detour is going. And then Main Street, as you know, it goes from downtown, passes the Subaru, passes a PG substation, goes under the Main Street Bridge. Then you have the Cove Apartments, as well as the Clackamas River Trail over there. And then it comes up to Clackamas Park on the other side, and then comes around to 99E. There's going to be a period when they're working on the Main Street Bridge that the road will be closed past, I think it's called 18th Street there, up to the Cove entrance. And so the people from the Cove will have to go around 99E, or those desiring to go to the Cove or the Clackamas River Park will have to go around to 99E, down what we call the Firestone Lane or through Clackamas Park and get on Main Street that way to get where they're going. So that closure will also occur. Sometimes that will occur during the day, the Main Street one, but the interstate ones, the I-205 closure would only happen at night. The one thing that I did not add was that the state will be doing major public outreach over the next 6 months. They will be having signs up on I-5 and notifying various people such as Metro, TriMet, the trucking industry, all the various people. We've already contacted some of those that we know as well. And there's going to be notices on I-84 and I-5 that tell all trucks that during this 4 to 6 year period, all trucks should not use 205, they should use I-5. Obviously, that'll create some congestion to I-5, but from our standpoint, we're only going to see cars on I-205 when construction is limiting the trucks. And that means that some people in the cars may choose to not want to deal with the construction, come off the highway early, and detour on their own through our town without designated detours, which could cause some congestion. A lot of it's remain to be seen. You never know how people are going to act and what they're going to do, but ultimately that's what you can expect out of some of the detours. So that is the end of the presentation. I see some people there with some questions. I found these pictures that I found fairly interesting. The one on the left is the original construction of the Abernathy Bridge. The one on the right is what it looks like today. And then in the middle is that detour that I was talking about for trucks, of how they're trying to take them off 205 and get them on I-5 and I-84. So with that, I'll hand it back to the chair to get your questions in.
I see two because I only see four people on my screen. So if somebody besides Bob and Tim West has a question, they should pop up. I'm going to call Bob first simply because he's at the top of my screen.
I was wondering why there's a limited time allowed to work in the water.
It's an environmental standard that is placed by the various people that regulate waterways. Some of it deals with environmental, some of it deals with the river levels. The river level is the lowest during that period, which makes it so that you have a lesser impact on the fish in that channel, as well as the other environmental aspects. So that's something common throughout the state of Oregon that I've had to deal with at other places I've worked.
And I'd also like to have more details about phase 1B, but maybe, that might take a little time. So maybe you could do that after the others have their questions.
Tim,
Why, thank you. I do have some questions in regards to this development, and it's not just 1A, but I think it's all of phase 1 that will impact Oregon City. I think that first of all, the 1A with the I-205 south from 213 is really a convoluted detour. Everybody is going down that 213, and you could just have them exit to the right and go north on I-205 to 82nd Drive and take a left and a left to come back down 205. That would be so much simpler than rerouting everybody through downtown Oregon City and not have traffic backups. So I urge you to look at that a little bit further and see if we can get some cooperation with Gladstone to do that. Because if I was a driver, I'd certainly go that way rather than through downtown Oregon City. How often do you see Highway 205 in phase 1 going down to one lane?
They have not given us those details in a timeline manner. They haven't got down to that kind of detail. So I can't really answer that at this time.
Okay, I would venture to guess most of the time it's down to one lane. And the impact is going to be for all of Oregon City on Main Street, on going down to Canby and Willamette Drive. So our little old bridge going across the street or the river, the old bridge in Oregon City, is going to get backed up considerably. And this is something that is going to affect the Canby Ferry as well as all of Willamette Drive. And it's a headache coming across the old Oregon City Bridge from 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock at night right now. It will be that way all day long, as long as it's the 205 is coming down to one lane either way. It's going to be a backup on 205 for 4 years. So it will be an issue. And I think that looking at the impacts of this will go ahead and help us accept the fact that when and if tolling ever happens, these bypasses on Willamette Drive and Highway 99 down to Canby and over to Aurora and the Canby Ferry are going to be just, they're going to see their traffic exponentially increased. So I urge you to go ahead and get communication between the Canby Ferry and everybody else right there, because once 205 goes to one lane, everybody's looking for a shortcut. All right. So that's all I have right now. Thank you very much. I appreciate your work, Josh.
Yeah.
Ray, you're
Hey,
next.
Josh. Hey, Josh, real quick. I understood the lane restrictions like that. Obviously, they need to move lanes, but that one lane scenario happens at night only? Is that right?
Yes, my understanding is all the work is going to occur at night so that they can keep commuting traffic and any other necessary traffic moving accordingly during the day. Now, obviously we know that they're going to try and keep that open as much as possible. There may be times where certain things happen, but you are correct, John, that all this work should occur between 8 p.m. and 5 a.m. And all lanes should be back open the large majority of the time during the day.
So work will happen during the day. It's just the lane impactful work happens from 8 p.m. to 5 a.m. At least that's the theory. There's
That's the
probably
message they've provided to us.
There may be exceptions to that, but they should be limited.
Yes.
This is Ray. I have a question about, does this project include installing the I-205 tolling project, or is that a separate project?
The tolling project would be separate.
Okay.
Now, that doesn't mean that if all the stars align, that they combine it because it all aligns, but not the way they're proceeding at this time.
And the second question I have is regarding the sidewalks between the Cove and downtown. Does this, the green area in 1B, does that include construction of the sidewalks, or is that separate?
So then that kind of goes in line with what Bob was asking about. So 1B, the purpose of 1B is to widen the highway from Main Street to 213 so that it becomes 3 lanes in each direction like it is north of 213. But what it also will do is on Main Street, the city has required through a land use review to add sidewalks on both sides of the street that connect where the sidewalk has ended at the Cove, as far as we could absolutely make them do it by law, to the west towards 18th Street. So I can't remember if we were able to get them to go all the way, because once it's out of the right of way, we didn't have a ton of say in what we could make them do. But we definitely would get more sidewalk there than there is now.
Okay. So it could be potentially still a gap between the constructed sidewalk and the downtown existing sidewalk.
Potentially. Yeah.
And the last thing I have is just, can we get the engineering drawings just so we can review that? At least I'd like to review them.
I leave that question to John. I don't know what his position is on those sorts of questions.
I guess first off, the sidewalk question, I think what I recall from the plans was sidewalk goes from the Cove area apartments. And I think they complete the sidewalk on both sides under the bridge and extend the sidewalk on the, let's just say the railroad side up to the existing sidewalk, which I think is near that steel fab shop. And then on the other side, they take it all the way to 17th Street where there's going to be a crosswalk there. That's my recollect. So there should be full sidewalk connectivity. So there should be no gaps, in other words, on the sidewalk piece. On the plans, that's an interesting question, Ray. That's public information. We typically don't release that, but I don't know. I'll have to ask ODOT about that. But
Just thought I'd ask, probably because it probably impacted my shuttle system at the college, because I use I-205 213 for my shuttle service, and so I want to make sure that how it impacts my shuttle service. That's part of the reason why I'm asking as well.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a secret at all. So I think what we have is, we looked at the 90% recently, right, Josh?
Correct. We've got the 90% design plans, and then we have the what's a 90% traffic control plan. But Ray, with you running that shuttle, they should be reaching out to you. I know they have not done that outreach yet to reach out to TriMet and all those to do any rerouting or things that'll be necessary. But what I can do the comments that you all are providing tonight, and my purpose is not just to listen, is to actually convey those comments to ODOT, because this is our opportunity. And so my plan is to write down all your comments and get those over to ODOT. And one of them will be, please coordinate with Clackamas County. What's the name of the system that you run, Ray?
Clackamas Community College, the CCC Express Shuttle.
Okay. And so I will ask them to reach out for that.
And I just remember one last question I have. The multi-use path detour, does the drawing show where the detour is proposed to be?
So, it's not major. It's mostly about a 5 to 10 foot or even less.
Okay.
I don't shift. And the biggest reason for that is where they needed to put the piers. It just runs into the existing path. And so they're mostly shifting it for what I just said, the big post reasons.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yep. Bob,
Okay.
your question about 1B?
Well, yeah, but yes, it did. But it also brought up another question I have. Has any thought been given to opening up Agnes Street from Main Street to I-205, where it goes by the sewage plant? I don't know.
Had that
That just
conversation.
came up to my mind, and I don't know if it'd help any with any detours or anything like that. But, it just popped out of my mind.
Yeah, no, great comment, because we actually have discussed that internally. The way the ownership of Agnes is now, it no longer has public right-of-way on top of it. So we do have some limitations of if we can even require certain things with that. The county is the one that owns that land now, and there is no longer right-of-way or an easement for access. However, we brought it to everyone's attention that what we don't know is where they're going to stage equipment. And there was one thought that they might want to use our Cove Phase 2 area because it's vacant right now. And there has not been an official request. But that's when the conversation came up about, well, if they need to get people out of somewhere, do they use Agnes? We already know that with the Cove Apartments, we have an agreement with West that if there's a flooding situation like the 96 flood, that we're allowed to open up Agnes in those cases. But I'm guessing for now, that's probably a last ditch option. But it is a good thought.
One comment about Agnes. The condition of the pavement there is really atrocious. As Josh mentioned, maybe for a flood for the folks in the apartment to use Agnes, that'd be one thing, but a detour, ODOT would have to, they'd have to redo Agnes to make it a detour route. The condition of the asphalt is that bad.
Yeah, I realize it's in pretty terrible shape, and definitely they'd have to improve the surfaces for sure.
Very good, thank you.
There's one other issue with Agnes that I want to bring up. If might not have crossed this group's, but there was a vote on a pipeline that Wes is planning to build between the treatment plant and really the same area that ODOT's working in. And the timing of that sounds similar, or it may fall within this phase 1 construction window. So, and that their alignment is right down the old Agnes. So, yeah, that's another kind of third strike, I think there, Bob.
Oh, poor Agnes.
I don't see any other views, so I don't know if any of the other members have any questions. I know I have a few, but I thought I would hold mine until the end in case somebody else asked one and asked it. And Tim Morgan.
Yes, sir.
Your hand.
Yeah, my question is, you mentioned that let's see here, what happened here? On the map there, that the first phase was funded and the second phase from 10th Street to Stafford Road was not. So if the Congress and the Senate passed the transportation bill, would they be able to get funds for phase two, or could they swap it and use the money in phase one and move that to phase two and get the federal funding for the other side, for the bridge?
Those are all things that ODOT, I'm sure, is looking into. The whole reason this project is a go is because the Rose Quarter project has been stalled. And so my understanding is the state is shifting funds from the Rose Quarter project to fund phase one.
Awesome.
And so that's, otherwise this would not have went this year. And then the phase two, yes, the feds are looking at another infrastructure plan. What does that mean for the states? That's all unknown at this point, but I'm sure it's something that the state will be looking at.
So basically then the money that was allocated for the Rose garden, the Rose, around the
Rose Quarter.
Rose Quarter is going to be moved over in advance of this, and then they're going to try to figure out how they're going to solve the binder problem.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Now, how much more money is needed to go from the phase two to finish the Stafford Road? So that's where the choke begins.
I do not know the numbers of what these projects are costing.
Yeah, and I think we're, as my understanding is, I think I want to be sure about this because last I heard it was phase 1A that was funded. Not sure about, and then a portion of B. Maybe Josh, you've heard something new, but that's the last I heard. So there was the phase 1C and D that I'm not sure is fully funded. And yeah, I think we're treading in dangerous territory when we start talking about funding much, Tim, just because there's a lot of moving parts and they're moving so fast. Just know that ODOT's the best source for funding. And I think our plan review is pretty squarely on phase 1A.
That is correct.
Right? And I think Josh,
and
isn't the B part include like the sound walls along the cove area there that they're going to put up and a couple other things?
Yeah, there's some details I didn't provide, but they're putting some sound walls up. That happens in phase 1B. There's also West Lynn as well as Water Environment Services are running new pipes along the new Abernathy Bridge. So we're going to be just doing some permitting on that. But yeah, phase 1A and 1B are for sure funded. Correct, John, that it's been unclear with ODOT whether C and D are part of the funding or if they need funding for those. That has been unclear to me. But this, these pictures come from ODOT through a presentation that they provided in another meeting I was in. So it's the way they've been organizing their discussion.
Tim, are you through?
Yes, thank you for the answer.
Ray, your hand's back up again.
I had a quick follow-up question about the shift of funding from the Rose Quarter project to this project. I thought the Rose Quarter project is a toll project. I didn't think it had money separate from tolling. So how is there money from that project if it's based on tolling money?
And I think I would agree with John Lewis that, how the funding is occurring, we don't know. The only statement we've been told is whatever money they were going to use for Rose Quarter is now being shifted to this project.
Yay.
So I have some questions that basically have to do with traffic volumes and whether or not Safeway and Fred Meyer have signed on. Both of them have regional distribution systems that involve tractor trailers and triple trailers that go through this section for I think a good share of the state of Oregon from Clackamas area. And is provision being made for being able to facilitate them, or is that been done yet? Also, also as a second part, there's a tremendous amount of that, of vehicles just in total numbers that use this section of I-5 even at night. And has that been compared to what can actually move on Washington Street and 14th and the detour routes? Because the impression I'm getting is that the detours are going to bring I-5 to a standstill, even with these detours. I'm sorry, I-205.
Right. So the statement that the ODOT folks and staff made at the presentation they made about a week ago, which dealt with this map here, which is the I-5 detour to get them off of 205. Your concerns were talked about in that presentation, and what they said was night work that they have done on various 205 and I-5 projects have not resulted in the types of backups or congestion that the general public has anticipated or expected. Can we believe that this is going to be the same? That's the position that they're making at this time. And I do somewhat believe them that it does seem like a major impact, but because the work is done at night, I think that is why the impact does not end up as bad as one would expect. With respect to various major companies that use the area, again, ODOT is doing a 6-month public outreach campaign where I'm confident they will likely be talking to anyone that will listen and try and find a way to help them understand how to get to where they're going in the most efficient way possible. Will there be some slowness to that? Will there maybe be some, different way of getting somewhere for a few years? Maybe. But during the day, the impact is not going to be as severe because they're going to be able to use most of what they want during the day. So that's my me giving you secondhand information from what I heard ODOT say.
And is there going to be necessary for these detours to have changes to our traffic signals and our lane controls and that sort of thing in order to facilitate that? And how's an ordinary citizen of Oregon City supposed to get to, say, West Lynn or Clackamas Town Center?
It's a very good question, and we have brought that question up to them in our review of the traffic control plans. We told them that they will need to work with us as well as Clackamas County in areas that the county may be in control of some of our signals. But most of the signals are state maintained and operated signals, such as 99E. They've said, absolutely, we will be adjusting the timing. Some of it, we're gonna know what to make a attempt for. Some of it is gonna be a little bit of play in the signal to try and find the best frequency on those signals, but they do absolutely plan to do that.
Ray, I see your hand again.
Yes, I have a question about the signal timing from a pedestrian bicycle standpoint. Well, if they make it easier or allow for more timing for cars to get through, for more car throughput, would that negatively impact pedestrians and cyclists crossing 99E to get to the multi-use trail on the west side of 99E from downtown?
I would say that kind of detail is yet to be known. One thing we have actually told ODOT with the closure or the one-way expectation of Clackamas Drive, because some of that's going to happen during the day, not just at night. At the peak RV season, peak fishing season, the amount of boats and RVs that come into that area may back up onto Dunes Drive, and that causes concern for us, which also causes concern of the people that bike and walk to that park from downtown or other areas. And we have those concerns to them in our comments. And we will be waiting for responses to our comments to see how they respond to that, but we have made those comments to them.
If you could share that with the tech when you receive the comments back, that'd be helpful from my standpoint. Thank you.
Any other questions yet? I haven't heard anything from Savannah.
I am absorbing all of this information. The only really thought I had is the time adjustments with public transportation, given all the traffic it might impact, especially if Main Street, I know the Canby Cat comes down that way, and I believe some of the Clackamas Community Colleges bus routes as well. But that's my only concern, but I'm hoping you guys will work that out with TriMet.
John, you want to talk? Okay. I can't.
No, that I must have been breathing heavy. All of a sudden, my my microphone kicked in. No, I just think, you know, there's going to be a lot of adjustments, folks, and I think there's going to be a lot of impacts. And I do think, like, to Ray's question about, you know, displacement, you know, every action has a reaction, and we're going to see that with, you know, different pieces of this project. So, you know, I think we're all, you know, doing the best we can to work with ODOT to plan accordingly, and that's why this meeting matters. I thought the conversation that you offered of Henry about the you know, the companies and trucks, obviously, you know, not everybody's just going north or south, right? So we've got east and a lot of traffic on 212, and so, you know, I mean, yeah, there's still going to be truck traffic. I think all their lane configurations are still interstate standard lane configurations, so, you know, full-size vehicles will have that maneuverability. But yeah, a lot to pull together. I mean, I think the Highway 43 side is going to be, you know, there's full reconstructions over there with the roundabout. I'm not quite sure how all that's going to play out, but we'll do what we can. And ODOT, well, I should say, we're not going to do too much with that. ODOT's going to have to deal with that, but we'll be there to share with them our concerns. And I think, you know, concerns via the TAC as we move into construction is going to be good. We'll probably have it as a regular agenda item.
So one thing that I would suggest is, and I'm sure ODOT's going to have it, but is having some way of having a format or a form or a way to have citizens' comments gathered and directed during this process and sent to ODOT for their answers, because not everybody's going to want to go to ODOT or even know how to get to ODOT. And I'm pretty sure we're going to hear some stuff through the city that just needs to be forwarded to ODOT. And so I'm thinking of some sort of a process in hand to get that done would be handy.
Yeah, so Josh, I think the comment there for ODOT is we'd like them to have kind of real-time tracking of complaints, responses, questions, concerns, and kind of some way to monitor how that feedback's going.
Yeah, it's going to be it reminds me of something I read once, which says, "May you live in interesting times."
I have a little retirement gig to get to. I've got to sign off, but thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.
I think we're wrapped up now unless somebody has something else to say.
I'd just like to thank whoever put this meeting together. And like John said, hopefully it'll be a regular agenda item. So thank you.
And I appreciate all the feedback that you guys have and gals have provided. And like I said, I'll be getting any notes to them in addition to what we've already provided them. So I know it was a quick turnaround and a special meeting, but they didn't give us a lot of time. But we do appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Josh.
Yes, thank you, Josh. It was informative.
And this concludes the extraordinary meeting. Thank you all for attending. And, you know, hopefully you can find us on YouTube and see and review it all.
Bye-bye.